evening, everyone. Going to call the Windsor Board of Education special meeting for December 5th, 2017 to order. Could we please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. As I stated at every meeting, I will always state and discuss the why of why we're here. The why is our mission, which is to develop the genius in every child and to create lifelong learners. And tonight we're going to have a special meeting. The agenda states that we're going to be discussing budget assumptions for fiscal year 19. There'll be a presentation of the school status reports by the building administrators, and then there'll be a district data team overview. With that being said, agenda item number 2 is audience to visitors. Anyone wishing to address the board may come forth. Sign in on the sheet at the table, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. Just as a reminder that no remarks or comments can be made against employees of the Windsor Public Schools or any child other than your own. When there are 30 seconds remaining, Vice President Fury will hold up a red card as an indication for you to start winding up your comments, and at 3 minutes, he will hold it up permanently. With that being said, does anyone wish to be recognized for audience to visitors? Seeing and hearing none, I will be closing audience to visitors. At this time, I will recognize Dr. Cook for item number 3, which is budget assumptions fiscal year 19. Excuse me, fiscal year 18. Excuse me.
Actually, no, you were good the first time. Fiscal year 19 is the budget we're currently starting to work on as we continue to work on FY18. So we're in a unique position as we've shared. And so each year prior to the start of the budget process, we go over what we develop is basically budget assumptions to help guide us through the process of setting the budget. We sometimes will refer back to these when we're in deliberations, and it gives the board a overview of where things stand now and where we expect them to be somewhat for next year. We're still, as you can imagine, very early on in our process. We have received school budgets and had some discussions with principals, but do not have many of our even estimated numbers for next year, such as for items like health insurance and some other bigger ticket items that we're working through and still going through principals' requests and things like that. So I would ask Danielle Batchelder to come forward to the microphone, and we're going to go through the 14 budget assumptions we have here and open to have discussion. This has in the past been something that was part of just the Finance Committee, but now that the Finance Committee is a committee of the whole, we do this with the whole board. Tonight we're just looking to have a discussion. These would come forward as a first reading in the December meeting. So it's really a informal discussion tonight, in terms of any questions you might have or information you'd like to see added on here, and we'll get you started.
All right, with that being said, before Ms. Batchelder proceeds, I just want to announce to the public and the board that Win TV is taping this meeting tonight. This meeting will be streamed live from Win TV's YouTube page tonight. It will be available on demand on Win TV's YouTube channel at youtube.com/Windsor TV 5. It will also be rebroadcast on Comcast Channel 5, 95, and 96. Ms. Batchelder. Dr. Cook.
Yes. Please start.
Okay. It was very strange to hear fiscal year 19. I haven't even gotten there yet. Okay, but it is. So budget assumptions for school year 2018-19. Every year we start our number one assumption as that we will continue to commit to finding efficiencies anywhere we can within our budget. The second one is enrollment. Our district district-wide enrollment has been relatively flat over the past few years. We've had slight increases or decreases throughout the year, but it has remained relatively flat. This year, we saw a jump up from 3,250 students. When we, last year was 3,186. We received our NASDAQ enrollment reports, which is the company that we use every year to forecast our enrollment, and it is going to remain flat for 18-19. Sorry, I apologize, I'm a little stuffy tonight. Staffing and programs, all of our principals and directors know that any staffing, additional staffing or program redesign or development will have to have a very hard look at. If we can do it, it'll be regarding based on student achievement, but also if we're adding, we're going to have to look to what we're going to be taking away in order to be fiscally responsible. Class size, the board always wants to keep, and administration wants to keep relatively low class size. We have always been able to do that. We continue to try to do that, and that is our goal moving into next school year. Our health insurance, we've seen great rates in our health insurance over the past 3 to 4 years. This school year, we had our administrators and teachers start on the health savings account, the high deductible, which allowed us to really remain at a 0% for coming into this school year. In next school year, as of July 1, 2018, the rest of our bargaining units will also be on the health savings account, so we will have total high deductible health savings utilization for next school year. With that said, we also have very low claims the past few years, so I'm looking to keep a flat budget in the health insurance, which is pretty huge because just a 1% increase can be, $700 to $1 million just for a couple of percent increases. So to remain flat is really good news for us. Excuse me. Contractual obligations, all base salaries will be increased approximately 2.09%. That's the average of all of our bargaining unit contracts going into next school year. Our special ed tuition, we increased our special ed tuition, if you remember, from last year to this year by 3% because we were seeing an increase. This will be monitored monthly, but as of right now, I'm thinking we're probably going to have to add about a 2%. I'm hoping to be able to come in flat, but again, it all depends on the students and the enrollment of kids coming in and out. Our utility costs, we're going to be able to remain flat in this area also. Over the past few years, the district and townwide has reduced utility cost up to about $400,000, which is huge. We have solar, we have converted all of our gas lines into our schools, so we have much better efficiencies in all our buildings. The only increase that we are looking at, we received from the town, water is going to be going up about 10%. We average about $90,000 worth of spending in water, so a 10% increase obviously is about $9,000, which is a small amount compared to the overall budget. Our regular ed transportation, this is a contractual item. It is a 3.2% increase. This was the same as last year coming into this school year. But I want to remind everyone that last school year, DACO gave us a give back for how our start off was. So we were able to reduce by $30,000 this year, which now we're going to have to add that to our 3.2% increase. So it will be a total of about $165,000 increase to this year's regular ed transportation. do you want me to just keep going item by item or stop for questions?
You can do the
Going.
whole one and then we'll
Okay.
take questions at the end, please.
The next line item is our special ed transportation. Also, we had to increase this by 3% coming into this school year. Our special ed population has grown slightly with the different out-of-district placements that we have to transport to. I'm anticipating about a $160,000 increase on top of the 3% for this year. We're trending currently about that now, so this school year is probably going to come in the negative a bit for the special ed transportation, which is why I'm looking to possibly increase that about $160,000. Our diesel fuel, we are looking, the town locks in the diesel fuel every July 1st. The gas, they lock in every January 1st. So we are looking to project 2.35 a gallon for diesel fuel. Excuse me, and gas is going to be at $2.20 a gallon. This, as the board members that have been with us for a while know, that this usually comes at the last minute in April of when we are able to lock in our rates. So in the years past, we've been able to decrease our budget slightly by about $20,000 to $30,000 because of our projected lock-in rate has been higher than what it comes in. But again, this is an area that will be monitored daily. Our magnet school tuition, we've been able to keep this line item flat for the past few years, which is pretty huge because about 3 to 5 years ago, we were increasing this by hundreds of thousands each year. Now we're able to remain flat because we're bringing kids back and because we're only having to budget for the possible increase that the magnet school schools are charging to us. Our state and federal funding, our ECS cost sharing and excess cost sharing is expected to remain flat again for 18-19. And the Alliance grant, as everyone knows, this is now embedded into the the educational cost sharing grant that the town receives. The town will be transferring that difference to us this year and most likely next year as well.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Batchelder. We've heard the budget assumptions. What I would like to do is to allow every board member to have a crack at questions first. And then after that, if there's another round of questions, then we'll proceed after that. So with that, who would like to go first? Ms. Blackburn.
Just two quick questions that I jotted down while you were going through, and thank you. The first, I'll start with special education. The out-of-district tuition costs, so that's why the increase for special education. But if I remember correctly, I thought there was a conversation about finding more placements for our students within our schools, or I just want to make sure I remember that conversation correctly. But is it all out-of-district tuition that's driving this?
The cost for out-of-district tuition is based on students that are at facilities outside of
Okay.
Windsor. If we did not try to bring students back in, that number would even be higher than it already is. Unfortunately, we have no control over what the out-of-district placement agencies charge. They're not state regulated.
Okay.
They can charge up to a 10% increase in 1 year, and we have unfortunately nothing to say about it. We just have to pay it. But I know Mr. Carvalho and his team work, diligently to try to bring back as many students as possible. And we also, a handful of our students are come to us from DCF. They move into this the school district. One day they're here, one day they're not. And we need to do what we need to do for the students. So we monitor that monthly in the enrollment report too, where you can see where our out-of-district numbers are.
And I was just wondering, I believe that our students who are in need of services need to have that. So it was just truly a wondering.
Yep.
And in regards to transportation, the 3.2% increase, what does that include? What does that cover?
This line item is strictly, we have been lucky with our out-of-district special ed transportation company. They have not had an increase in over 3 years. We utilize one company. We brought everyone under one umbrella, which helps out also with ride shares. But where we saw a huge increase, so to give you an example, last October 2017, we were transporting about 80 students out of district. This October 2017, we're transporting about 80 students out of district. This time last year, we were at 58. So the increase, and we saw that last year, it's our special ed transportation and was increasing significantly. We were monitoring that. I informed the board, regularly through board meetings about that, which is why we added the 3% from last year into this year. We are remaining steady. So in May, we had 73 students. In October, we have 80. So that is, it did jump a little, but this is another area we monitor almost daily to make sure that we have exact numbers and where they're going. And now this isn't always, when I say special ed tuition, special ed transportation, this is not geared 100% just for out-of-district placements. This is students that need transportation within our district also. So any type of PPT that these special ed department has, if a modification for transportation comes out of that, that is going to drive this cost up. So this is not 100% relative to out-of-district kids. This is our in-district kids as well.
Thank you.
All right, I'll alternate, go to my left. I can start with you, Mr. Halleck, or someone else like to begin? Mr. Ross.
So the first one's not a question I necessarily need an answer for, just kind of planting a seed on this one. But for item number 1, where we're continuing to find deficiencies within the budget, I don't know if we've given any thought to looking at regionalization of any of our services. I think there's 2 reasons why we'd look at regionalization. One reason is because it could impact the budget positively, and the second reason would be if it impacts our quality of service delivery. So again, I don't have any specific examples of where regionalization could either help the quality of a service or find an efficiency within a budget. But just to plant the seed, it's something we could start taking a look at. There's no question, but before I move on, I don't know if there's...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, number 3 on staffing and programs. I know we've kind of alluded to this before, but with staffing and programs, particularly on the program side, I know it was brought up on past sessions that we felt that the budget isn't the right forum for adding or removing programs, that we'd want to go through curriculum. So part of the question there when it comes to program decisions is where does that come under the budget versus where would we be looking for that input from curriculum committee, and how would they play together, that if we say we can't fund program A, or we do have some money to fund program B, how the interplay between the budget and the curriculum would work.
Cook.
So, I'm not sure, could you
All right,
flesh that out a
so
little bit further?
here's an example,
Yeah.
or the big example. When we did away with the seminar program, if you remember, one of the complaints that some of us had was we're using the budget forum to make what in essence was a curriculum decision. So, as we're looking to whether doing the same thing, saying we can't fund a certain program, or even taking an opportunity to add programs, we look at the curriculum committee as kind of that vehicle for adding, improving the curriculum, which in essence is the programs. So in terms of using the budget workshops and the budget committee as kind of the forum before adding or removing programs is not the way we typically operate, but it has happened. So and I don't know if there will be any changes. There may not be. It might be a moot point this time around or a moot point this time around. But if that decision happens where we say, well, we can't fund a certain program, is that something that we would look to on the curriculum side, or can that be coming to us purely from the budgetary side?
I'll take that.
You
got it?
I have an example of one way it's worked recently, and I would say that ideally that's what we would happen, but sometimes decisions are being made, kind of closer to the budget being created. We're still finding out figures and trying to come in with a reasonable budget. So an example of how we were looking to add a program, we had gone through the curriculum committee and developed the robotics curriculum, and had prepared and asked for another teacher to teach that course. Now, we were able to do that because we decreased elsewhere, but ideally that would have been a new teacher that we would have added to be able to do that. So ideally it would come through curriculum, and you're right, most times when we're making reductions, it hopefully isn't taking away a whole program. It might be taking away pieces or looking at different grade levels when we're having to make tough decisions, but there may be times where we're bringing recommendations to the board that we don't have time to go through a full committee, in my opinion, to do that. It's more, a difficult decision. We're making a decision with that versus something else, and then laying that, from the board for a decision.
Okay, yeah, in summer school would probably be another good example of a curricular decision that really found an outcome because of budgetary reasons. And just to ask a more direct question, on number 11 on the diesel fuel, do you know what that increase, that projected rate of $2.35 would turn into for an actual dollar amount this year over last year? Because it's a substantial increase.
Yep, it comes out roughly to about 50,000.
Yeah, that's a line item that we've been benefiting from for the past several years. And it's been well stated that it was going to be a point in time where that pendulum was going to swing the other way against us. And we're at that point now.
Oh yeah, I just want to get the dollar amount of what that was. No more questions right now. Thank you.
Welcome. I'll go to my right. Someone to the right. Mr. Dalbert.
Thank you. A couple questions. In regard to the health insurance, I know that you said that the system is transitioning to a high deductible health savings plan, which in most cases it will save the school system some money. But I'm curious, is there a change in the cost to the employee, whether it's the teacher or the administrator, for switching over to that?
Well, first, it's all under contract negotiations that we go through that process, but technically yes, but as a whole, no. So the employee contribution based on the monthly premium rate, when we transfer to a high deductible, those rates decrease. So then the percentage is less that they're paying. But then they have to pay out of pocket for 50% of the funding in our funding. For example, for our administrators and our teachers as of 7/1/18 will be 2,000, 4,000. 2,000 single, 4,000 family. And the other groups have been at 15, 3,000.
So we looked at as a whole from the school system compared to the employees, has it been an overall savings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we're seeing that this year, absolutely.
Okay. So the savings that is coming to the school system far outweighs any sort of addition that the employees have been.
Yes, but I mean, it's when you're working with a high deductible, it really is person by person.
Depends on how many.
Yeah, and how they utilize in who they're covering. If they're covering a family of 5 or 6 compared to if they're single, but on average, it's an absolute savings to employee and employer.
And so two more, hopefully this is a nice easy one. Line 11, diesel fuel. I'm assuming that And I'm asking this because I'm new to the board, is that that's not something that's in our control, that's something that the town handles in regards to any sort of negotiation or price.
Yes, but they're involved in a consortium, so it is a lot of towns and districts throughout this area that lock in, and they lock in on a rate, and then they join that.
Do they use the same distributor, or do they price it out at different ones? Do you know?
Consortium?
Yes.
No, they price them out every year, they go out to bid.
Okay.
That's what's helpful, because someone, the third party is doing all that legwork.
Okay, and then the final question I had, I wasn't able to attend the town council meeting last night, but I did watch it on Win TV live, and the question that I had is that I thought that there was some conversation about the Alliance grant, and Dr. Cook, you can probably handle this, that we're waiting to find out if we're still considered an Alliance town, and my question is that if that goes away, if we're no longer considered an Alliance town, how would that affect us from a financial standpoint?
Great question. From what's been shared with us from the state, and the fact that we're receiving it already before they've determined the status, is that we would continue to receive the grant money, even if we were to move beyond where they draw the Alliance district line. So even if we were to move beyond, we would still continue to receive the same funding as we received last year.
And that would be determined by the state mostly on a year-by-year basis, I assume?
I think what they're looking to do is, as districts move out, that they would be moved out. It wouldn't be if you dipped a little bit the following year that you would automatically be put back in. I think they're looking at a more longer term look at it than that. Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you. In regards to class size, there's a reference to guidelines. I don't recall seeing guidelines, so I was hoping you could point me in a direction to viewing those or gaining a better understanding.
Sure,
Our teacher's contract does not. It's been a really informal process. When I was hired here 9 years ago, I was given an administrative reg with basically it written on there. That was the board at the time. I believe, so it was truly left as a guideline and not a requirement. But what that is and what that has been is for grades 1 through 2, 18 to 20, and then grades 3 through 5, it's been 20 to 23 is really the target number that the districts tried to place class sizes in. I will share we've tried to come under those numbers as much as possible and find that to be best educational model for us. And for instance, for kindergarten, about 3 years ago, during a very difficult budget time, a decision was made to eliminate kindergarten paras and add kindergarten teachers to each school. We added one teacher to each school, and again, a guideline, not a unmovable commitment or anything in a teacher's contract, but we have tried to keep those kindergarten class sizes around 13, and have been successful, doing that. And that I think is, appreciative that we've held that commitment to the teachers, because that was a difficult decision at the time to make that. But I think again that's allowed a better educational environment, and also better family and community partnerships as well, having a small class size.
If I could follow up on that, specifically to your response. I think that's a really great example of making a decision based on budget assumptions. So keeping class size down, kindergarten paras were eliminated, adding an additional kindergarten teacher per school allows you to continue to operate at a 13 student to 1 teacher ratio. So what has been the benefit of that? Just there was a reference to classroom management, as you say, and then also family community partnership. How has that been demonstrated, and what are the cost savings associated with that?
But the cost savings were substantial. So at the time that we made that change, we decreased, I believe it was 12 paras, so 12 positions that carried benefits with that, and that was about $40,000 each total, including benefits and salary at the time. Adding 2 teachers is $150,000. So off the top of my head, it was 400,000, 300,000 to 400,000 that we were saving. The benefit's been everything from, I think it's been easier for teachers to make home visits. I know that's occurring. Those connections, smaller class sizes, allowing for individualized instruction more frequently. We have students that come from experiences two years of full day pre-K, and then some students that haven't had a pre-K experience. So it's really, I think that's shown in our STAR scores, in kindergarten and in first grade as we track those students as well. So I think that's been a very positive move.
And I have another question. I wanted to kind of follow this through, just data-driven decision making. I think that was an excellent example. So I hear home visits, individualized instruction, STAR assessment, and then I know that when the pairs came out, they were like really speaking to the co-teaching or the aid that the parent provides within the classroom to really meet students where they're at, specifically around, behavior and this, social emotional learning. So have you spoken with the kindergarten teachers and gained some feedback from them on those 2 specific areas of behavior and also social emotional development?
So it wouldn't be a co-teaching model unless it was a second teacher.
But it was
right.
referenced that that's
Correct.
benefit.
Right. And so from my view in working with principals and observing it, that it has been successful. I mean, I think you're taking it, at the time we were going through the budget process, we were taking an adult out that many of the teachers, understandably so, and the paras had become very close. They were working together 182 days a year with students, and that was not easy, I think, for either side. I would say, though, not surveying them and not putting them in a difficult position, but I think our teachers would say that they appreciated the lower class sizes. To the point where we heard from them this summer as Pequannock saw a jump in enrollment, they were saying, to their principal, they were saying, make sure you're letting Dr. Cook know we're up to, 13 and a half per class, or, they were keeping us updated almost on a weekly basis during the summer as they saw some increase. So we have not had requests to bring back paras and increase class sizes. So I think that's an indication that it's been working. I think that the principals are pleased with that as well. And then for the board's benefit, we do provide, as part of the budget process, a matrix for the elementary organization. So you will see what we are projecting in each grade level, K through 5, how many teachers we're projecting, how many students per class size are projected. So you'll see that as part of the process.
Okay, thank you. My other question is around special education. What does the 2% look like? How much money is that?
So 2% on tuition or transportation is different than a 2% over the total pupil service or special ed budget. It's all different. It's all separated out. So
I think it says tuition.
that's what
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't clarify.
No, that's okay.
Special education number 7, the tuition, yeah.
That would be about 160,000 increase.
Okay. Wow, that puts things into perspective, thank you.
seen numbers this year remain flat. Last year they were increasing, but because we added 3% last year, we're good right now, unless we have a large influx of students coming in compared to going out. We're hoping to remain flat this year
Okay.
into next year.
So that may be adjusted.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's such a moving target.
I feel like it can change like week by
It can
week.
go down, but it can also
Yeah.
spike up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I had a few other questions. So number 14, the Alliance grant. It says the Alliance grant that the district received directly for the past 5 years is now included within the excess cost grant, which flows directly to the town as revenue.
Yep.
So what I heard was that we'll continue to receive that funding instead of as a grant dollars directly given to the district. It's gonna come through the town like ECS funds.
Yes.
And that's different than how we
Yes.
previously received it.
Yes, but just for education of new board members, the whole reason that it goes back into the ECS funds is because when the 30 districts received Alliance monies, their ECS money to the town froze. Other districts were receiving increases every year. So those increases are in lieu of the Alliance grant. So now Windsor is just more or less going back 5 years what we would have received. And the ECS is the offshoot of revenue coming in, is what drives the tax base and what drives what the town can give us for our budget. So yes, it is coming in differently, but we are receiving those funds because the town has budgeted flat, and they know that comes to us until we work out a better model moving forward, or another model, I should say better, just another model.
When did that change happen? I missed that.
For the ECS and the Alliance?
No, when did we start receiving the Alliance district funds through the town?
It happened, we were notified, I believe, in November.
Yes.
Like, it was like, I remember it was right around Halloween or before Halloween. No one knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, I remember it kind of being
And all of a
this
sudden, there
weird.
was, yeah, literally it came in as an email, and I saw that it was an increase to our normal ECS allotment,
Okay.
and then backtracked it.
The only change that I would request on this document is modification, and just open for discussion or just kind of throwing it out there, is that the Alliance grant that the district received, I'm just wondering if reference should be made to the funds, like the Alliance district or Alliance grant funds that the district received directly for the past 5 years is now included within the excess cost grant. The reason why is because I think that there may still be some misunderstanding about this Alliance district and it being a grant still. It's like the money is the important part of it. We potentially, so I guess I should ask a question first. How do we know when we move out of Alliance district status?
We would be notified by the state. They have not calculated last year's results yet. Just had Dr. Oliver and I had an email today that there were some areas that they're still finalizing from last year, some of the indicators. So I don't expect it in 2017. It'll be sometime in 2018 we'll be notified what our district accountability report is, and then from there they would calculate how we ranked versus other districts. So I would say January, February timeframe at the earliest.
So if that were to occur, if we were to move out of the Alliance district status, does that mean that we no longer qualify for the Alliance grant?
No, my understanding is, because as Ms. Batchelder said, that other towns received increases, well, we received increases to Alliance funding. So my understanding is, and how they've shared it with us, and it always can be changed by the legislators, and that's why it's so important that we continue our work with our legislators, is that the funding would continue as part of ECS until a new formula is created, which I think is on the horizon, but I don't want to predict when that would ever happen.
That actually is one of the recommendations in the governor's budget through CAPS and CAVE and CASWO is they're having 2 subcommittees come up with a new formula for all of this. And granted, we might be 5 years from now when we see it, but that is in the works at the state level.
So the shift to moving the Alliance District funds from a grant, like kind of traditional grant or allocation process to into the kind of role, I guess, packaging that, delivering it in with the excess cost grant allows us to, that gives us a greater degree of protection then, because it's already lumped into the ECS funds? Is that,
I
I'm
believe
trying
so.
to like,
Yeah, I believe so.
because I know this has been a real, it's been kind of scary.
Right. No, yeah, it is, as we're starting the year off, with making commitments to employees that are paid out of the fund, and we're not sure if it's going to us or the town. So we definitely have clarity on that now, so we know where that is. It's been set up for us, but I do like the idea of including the word funds, so it would read a lot, the Alliance grant funds that the district received directly. So I think that's a good ad for us to do for the first board meeting.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. Those are all my questions. Thanks for clarifying.
All right. Marion, David, anyone?
I think David. A lot of my questions, I think, have been answered by others, but I guess in trying to continue to beat the dead horse here, I'm back to number 7 again about the special ed tuition. And you said the 2% is probably about $160,000. But what's the, and you said if the numbers, though, you're thinking will probably be flat, but you never know who moves into the district, who moves out of district, who needs the services. But is that 2% based on the fact that in the upcoming year, your crystal ball says that the providers will probably increase their charges to us per pupil?
No, I don't like to use crystal balls. I actually sent it to Dr. Cook and Mr. Carvalho over the weekend because we track it by an individual student, the number of days they go, their daily rate, any additional services they have, and I track it every month. So when a student moves out or moves in, it's tracked to the day. So when we're projecting a number, it's by actual students, and they'll know what students will be graduated out, and through Mr. Carvalho's team for first to 3, we would know possible students that are coming in. And the difference would be the difference of increased rate charges.
Again, on special education, the transportation on number 10, and you indicated there also that the increase would be about $160,000. But what percent is that of an increase?
Sorry, I was going off real numbers. Let me just pull it real quick.
Part of this is important when we go back later on to the community and say, well, when people say, potentially we don't have a budget yet, but this is just the assumptions, you can see that so many things, just the cost of living, if you will, goes up. And look, a lot of these, 2% is often a figure we see, or contractual, it could be 2, it could be 3, and that's if we just keep doing what we're doing with the same number of students, so.
1.54 of an increase.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right, Miriam or Jeremy? We've been on this for an hour and we only got an hour left. We got 2 other agenda items, so I'm gonna get to these two board members first. And if it's burning, we'll take a question, but it has to be quick. Jeremy, Miriam, anything? No questions? Jeremy, any questions? No questions.
It's a very quick comment.
Mr.
It's
Boss?
just based on all the questions, I know where we're seeing percentage, people are asking for what the number is, where we've seen a number of people are asking for a percentage. So when we go from the draft version, the assumptions, the final version, maybe we just get both for wherever there's a percentage, we get the number, or there's a number, we also get the percentage. That way, everybody has the percentage and the number.
Fair
That's
enough.
it, thanks.
Duly noted.
The only,
Dr.
if I
Cook?
could, the only response I would have on that is sometimes, so for instance, base salaries in 6 is used as a percentage because that will not be typically where that lands, because we'll have retirements, resignations as part of that. So I wouldn't want to, we can certainly calculate what 2.09 is as a dollar amount, but sometimes putting it out there, it's going to be a higher number than what ultimately you're going to see in our budget. I would just want to
And we could take
caution.
that as an exception
Yep.
or make a note, but thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, I think we're all set. Dr. Cook, Ms. Patchell, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I asked Mr. Hill to bring our speakers for the next 2 presentations down.
All right.
We have a minute.
If you want to step out real quick.
I just want to grab my bag.
Go ahead, go ahead. Yep. Because he may have questions, and I want to make sure his questions get answered as well. But still, if he got questions, I want to make sure I don't want him to have to come to a board meeting and have to filter all that out, No problem. They look happy. They must have ate all the food. Yeah. That's what we want, though, right? Yes, sir.
Certainly won't argue with them. I think it is a little bit longer because we have basically 3 meetings.
I have to, I texted, I think, you guys, I have to leave at 7:45. Yeah, I'm on a radio show tonight. I mean, are we leaving at 3:50?
Take care of.
I'm gonna come back. I just have to get on the Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. No, my car. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's like work related.
Yeah, so.
All right, I will keep us moving if that's okay.
Yes, agenda item number 4 is the presentation of school status reports. I recognize Dr. Cook.
So, thank you. So we wanted to take this opportunity, certainly with 5 new members on the board, to introduce our administrators to the board, and I'm going to allow the principals of each building to do that. We wanted to give the board, most importantly, a status report on each of our buildings and really what the buildings are working on for strengths and opportunities and strategies for improvement. It's a high-level look at our school improvement plans, which are part of the school's websites and are available, and would take a little bit longer to go through, but we presented something similar last year and had great success with the board, so we're very excited to do that tonight, as well as give the board an overview of our district data team process and how the district uses student data and staff data to inform our improvement. There are two members here with us tonight that will not have an opportunity to be introduced as part of the school's presentation, so I would ask them to come forward and put them on the spot, Wendy Cody and Angela Aaronwood. And so if you could come forward, and what I had asked the principals to do was just give you a brief background of their time in Windsor and how they came to these spots. So I'm going to ask them to come forward to the microphone so they can be on TV and share, because they're both longtime district employees and really integral to our work. Angela Aaronworth is our elementary special ed supervisor, and Wendy Cody is our secondary special ed supervisor. So just share any background with the board.
Sure. Hi, I'm Angela Aaronworth, the elementary special ed supervisor, working with teachers and students and families grades preschool through grade 5. I've been a special administrator for about 9 years. Prior to that, I was a special ed teacher and also a local social worker.
And I'm Wendy Cody. I'm the special education supervisor for secondary levels, so I work with grades 6 through age 21. I've been with Windsor Public Schools since 2005, where I started as a special education teacher at Windsor High School. I then became the out-of-district special education teacher, so it was all of the students attending magnet schools whose IEPs we monitor. And I think in 2014, perhaps, I became the secondary special ed supervisor. So both of us still work with students in out-of-district placements and within the district.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for everything we do.
All right, so we are going to move right to Windsor High School. Following Windsor High School, we'll have Sage Park, Oliver Ellsworth, John F. Kennedy, Quantick, and Clover Street School.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Everybody.
All right.
So I have, just gonna, like Dr. Cook said, I'm gonna give you guys a brief overview of some of the strength opportunities we have at the high school, and also some areas for improvement. Okay. Before I do that, I would like to call on the Windsor High School administrative team to introduce some people. I'm going to start with myself. My name is Julio Sunday. This is my second year as assistant principal at Windsor High School. I say that proudly. Secondly, I would like to introduce Ms. Fada Duros, who is, if you please stand, who is assistant principal at Windsor High School and currently oversees grade 10 and half of grade 11. Next, I'll have Ms. Letitia Jones, assistant principal at Windsor High School, who currently oversees grade 12 and half of grade 11. Lastly, the assistant principal, Ms. Maria Parker, who is a new addition, an excellent addition to our team, who currently oversees our grade 9 students. Next, without a doubt, a lot of the work that we do cannot be done effectively without awesome and talented department chairs. I would like to introduce, starting with the English department, Mr. Todd Cunha. Next, with the math department, Ms. Megan Maines. Next, with the science department, Ms. Sindhu Thomas. Next, with the social studies and history department, Ms. Nancy Curley Kirk. Next, with special education, Ms. Sarah Anderson Potts. Next, and who's unable to join us today, is the Director of School Counseling, Ms. Lori Foote Mitchell. Filling in today for her is one of our lead counselors and current Teacher of the Year, Ms. Christina Wallace. And lastly, in my opinion, the best athletic director in the state of Connecticut, Mr. Steve Risser. Okay, so now we're going to move forward with strength and opportunities. So last year at Windsor High School, we largely had a rather successful year. For the first time since the inception of the SAT, our junior class scored an average that exceeded over 1,000 in both sections. That was a point of pride for everybody. That was a point of pride for everybody. It took a tremendous amount of work collectively, and our kids were committed to the SAT preparation program that we had and clearly met our standards. So last year, one of the strategies we employed is we provided access to more students. And this year, we followed the same kind of blueprint. We're doing the same thing. We did a lot of research and we piloted infusing it into the school day. So having an SAT prep program as part of our master's program. At this point in time, we have about 38 kids who are enrolled in that, and the feedback from the teacher and his honors rate is very, very favorable. And we're excited to see the kids sit for the test on March 29th. We also solicited enrollment. At this point in time, we have about 123 kids who have enrolled for the SAT prep program, which is scheduled to begin this winter, and will go all the way up into the assessment, which is scheduled for March 21st. Additionally, what we saw last year, we find to be a strength, and this is a credit to Ms. Megan Maines and teachers in her department. We found that we had a jump in math, in the area of math last year. And a lot of that can be credited to the spiral activities, SAT concepts and strategies, and to their work. Additionally, this year, through our professional learning communities, each department, the vast majority of our departments have adopted SAT-type goals as their professional learning goals. The biggest aspect of the work we're doing this year, we felt we had some strategies and some action plans in place that allowed us to be successful last year. But the biggest actions that we are engaged in this year are the implementation of systems that allow us to create organizational coherence and accountability. So with that, we designed and implemented 3 core systems. The first is really a pullover from last year, but we implemented what we consider what we call essentials for effective instruction, which focuses on Tier 1 practices that should cut across every classroom at Windsor High School. Secondly, we implemented infrastructure for multi-tier supports. Okay, this infrastructure allows us to capture and monitor students who need support throughout the school year, so no kids fall through the cracks. And with that specific system, we look at school and operate in really 3 categories: academics, conduct, and then attendance. And then lastly, as I said, this is dedicated to capacity building. We implemented infrastructure around professional learning. So those are the 3 core systems. Obviously, our work is centered on making sure our kids, over the course of their 720 plus days at Windsor High School, are adequately prepared to transition into the world. So we have to stay committed to constant monitoring. One of the things that we do is we run frequent DNF reports. Okay, and the idea is that if we can identify the students who fall on that report, we can triage. Okay, and essentially what we're saying is that we're going to settle for nothing less than a C. Okay? So we use that strategy, and then also with our seniors, Jones has done an excellent job working with members of our pupil personnel services, such as counselors, social workers, or anybody else who they need to collaborate with, to make sure we do quarterly audits to see where the seniors are at, to ensure that they have post-secondary plans and they're ready for graduation. Lastly, another piece that we use to make sure we keep kids on graduation and that trajectory is our credit recovery program. Next, one of the things we certainly look at is resources and supports that we have for social and emotional needs. We've had incredible support from Stephen Carvalho's office over the years. Clearly, there's been a conversation about that piece to really enhance the learning process and student production. So we've done a lot of things with social workers, we've done a lot of things around curriculum, we've done a lot of things around giving the student agency to speak about some of the challenges and some of the hardships. There's still a lot of work to be done in that area. I think that's a task that we are certainly stepping up to the plate to take on. An opportunity is centered, and this seems to be a particular challenge. It sounds like it's not just unique to Windsor, but it's something that we all need to work on here, is around chronic absenteeism. Okay, so there's a lot of conversations, a lot of research, and data analysis, and trying to figure out strategies and action steps to empower. So those are strengths and opportunities. And then strategies for improvement, a lot of it are primary strategies that are based on our school improvement plan really lie across those massive systems that we implemented this year. Again, learning walks, which is tied to the essentials for effective instruction, which is a routine six-week cycle where we have teachers mobilize and move across the building to observe other teachers to see if these core practices are emerging. We aggregate data in a non-evaluative way, and we have conversations about it as a staff. Multi-tier systems of support. Again, these systems are in the infancy stages, so as we implement the systems, we keep constant monitoring of these systems, and the idea is that in areas where we do have to tweak it, we're cognizant of those things and we tweak it in order to make sure it operates pretty efficiently. And then lastly, professional learning communities. Climate and culture, there was a lot of conversation. We have an amazing teachers union, the Windsor Education Association. I have a great working relationship with them. We've had conversations about what climate and culture looks like at Windsor High School. As a matter of fact, we met today as a school family to discuss and review where we're at so far this year. So to expand, what we did is we took a look at our climate committee and we created subdivisions and subcommittees that are focused on a different topic. Okay? Examples of those subcommittees reside in PBIS designs, which is directly tied to our NCSS piece, teacher morale, our advisory lessons, okay? That's one of the biggest mechanisms we're able to address a lot of the social emotional aspects, engage kids in conversations, strengthen relationships. And then lastly, we created a subdivision that's centered on quote unquote social media. Okay, so how do we use a tool and instrument that kids are so glued to in 2017 as a teaching instrument, teaching digital citizenship and continue to improve the way we interact with each other on a daily basis. Windsor High School. Additionally, I think Windsor High School does it better. In most places, we have somewhere around 49 closing activities in conjunction to our athletic department, where we offer at least 22 or 24 sports. So we encourage a lot of students to get involved as much as possible. I believe the last time I sat with Director of Athletics, Stephen Risser, he told me somewhere around 800 of our kids are involved in at least one sport. Okay, and that's telling because that's almost 80-85% of our student body. Additionally, like I said before, publicly, we have a lot of students who engage in conversations and work, community-based projects, state-based projects around advocacy, social justice. I think Windsor High School does that better than anybody else, certainly in the area, probably in the state. But then there's also continued efforts to make sure accountability is tied to student behavior, decision-making, and conduct. Okay, so one of the things that we do is review as a building leadership team and share with the staff what our conduct data looks like. Okay. Talent development systems is ongoing iteration, is looking at those things in terms of how we support building capacity with our staff. We use multiple mechanisms such as consultants, department and district-based professional development learning opportunities, multiple vectors. PDEC also does a lot of work where we now tie learning opportunities, giving teacher choice and teacher presentation directly aligned to the school improvement plan. So again, the school improvement plan is wide in scope. It's wide in scope and it's quite comprehensive, but in a 10-minute window, hopefully you get an idea of the work that we engage in every day.
Great. Any questions for the board, for the principal? Mr. Dollar?
Real fast one.
Yes, sir.
In regards, I know there's been a conscious effort to increase the SAT scores over the last few years. Do you have a specific number that you're trying to hit, or is it just continual improvement?
Continual improvement. So last year, our kids jumped by almost 30 points, okay? So obviously we're going to challenge them to step up even more. Ideally, we would like our kids in each section to be somewhere in the middle of the state, okay? But we know that's what's in front of us. So last year, if you look at our numbers, we scored, we went from somewhere around 472 in a section to over 500. Certainly in English and math, somewhere around 498 or 500, okay? So the idea is to challenge our students to step up to the plate. The complexity in that is we're comparing apples to oranges. Every year is a different cohort of kids, okay?
Kids, yeah.
And the skill set that they bring and the preparedness that they bring to the table each year has to be looked at through a different lens. What I do know is that there's an intense effort by 138 certified staff members, teachers who are trained in the Princeton Review Prep program. And the idea is that we're able to capture as many kids and provide them with that preparation piece in advance of the test. And we're hopeful that that yields the kind of results that puts us in the middle of the state of our years.
Any questions? Mr. Bosch?
And so one of the things you did talk to was just the opportunities we have through sports, through other things, art. You know, one of the things I know I've talked to Dr. Cook about is just the number of opportunities we have, and the idea that it would be amazing if every student did something outside of the curriculum. And with all the opportunities we have, you know, there's no reason that we don't have a program, whether at the school level or at the town level, or, you know, whether it's not even the school or town, whether someone's doing something privately, music lessons, maybe a sport out of the district, or whatever they're doing. I don't know if we have any mechanism to capture, you know, which students don't look like they're doing anything at all outside of school, and just have a conversation. What are your interests? Is there something you'd like to do, whether it's robotics or otherwise, how we get to those students that, because we know these things are very beneficial,
Yeah.
whatever the activity is, to have an activity outside of.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways to answer that question. I think your assumption is absolutely right in that we haven't had a formal way to capture that, okay? I think we'd have to have a conversation with Matt Madonna to see if Power School has the capacity for us to tag kids with the associated teams or clubs or activities, so this way it just kind of pops up. I know through Naviance, kids are able to kind of bullet point some of the things they're listed in. And the other, you know, in a very foundational kind of way is just aggregating rosters on those club advisors and the coaches. The athletic department is very easy to do because we submit those rosters to the state. But for the clubs and activities, I think that should be doable as well. Okay, with the clubs and activities, there's a little bit more transiency, but that's definitely something we can look at and then see if we can have conversations with those kids who are not traditionally involved in things to see if they can have a more comprehensive experience. Just suggestion, thanks.
Questions, comments, concerns?
One other.
Mr. Bosch?
Yeah, so one thing that's not on here is the advanced placement classes, and we're doing great things with advanced placement. We have a lot of students taking advanced placement, and a lot of students doing well in advanced placement. But I think when we looked at the numbers, when it comes down to the tests they take, you know, certainly an area we'd like to improve is the students that are passing that for college credit. You know, I know there's only so much we can do in a year when we can't improve everything in a year, but just as a comment, it's one of the things I would have myself liked to have seen as part of our.
Yeah, no, we're going to try to improve everything.
Yeah.
that's why we're here. Okay, we're gonna work in that direction. That's a commitment that myself and the leadership team talk about all the time. Our kids are important to us, so to the extent that we can do that, we're going to do that. As a matter of fact, we are in the research and design phase of trying to see if we can create a comparable AP prep program, which is similar to our SAT prep program, providing access to kids in that regard. Okay, it's a research and design phase. What I do know is that we have a tremendous amount of teachers who forego their weekends to come in on Saturdays to work with kids. As a matter of fact, I was in the office for about 5 or 6 hours on Saturday, and Ms. Trivedi, one of our science teachers, had 22 out of 27 kids in on Saturday for 3 hours. And they all came in happy, you know, and awake in the early morning. Okay, so it's people like that that are just giving up the time to find so much fulfillment and value in this work. And there's countless countless others who do it, you know, in our school. But if we can formalize the process and provide an opportunity for kids to build test-taking strategies, build competency and efficacy around content, we're going to look to do those things.
Yeah, thanks for those answers, and thanks for all that you and the staff does. It's really appreciated.
Thanks for your support.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I'd like a little bit more explanation about your multi-tiered system of support. You had mentioned academics, conduct, and attendance as the pillars of that. I'm not quite sure what exactly that means.
Sure. So multi-tier system support is essentially the SRPI model, scientifically based research intervention. And what we do is we run routine data, okay, to quote unquote flag or identify students and try to identify places where they need support. Okay, so when we talk about the average student or the standard student, obviously the number one work that we are intended to do is to make sure they learn and they're adequately prepared for graduation around curriculum and learning standards. So we run different identifiers such as the DNF report. Okay, we do credit audits. We do take a look at STAR data. We take a look at AP scores. We take a look at SAT scores. We take a look at AP scores. And for students who don't demonstrate a high level of proficiency or mastery, we have conversations about how we can support them. So for us at the Tier 1 level, all Tier 1 instruction is supposed to cut across the vast majority of students who sit in front of every teacher. Okay, approximately 80% of students should be able to benefit from Tier 1 instruction. And for us right now, what we have designated to be our Tier 1 instruction is our essentials for effective instruction, quote unquote, guideline of framework. Okay, that's an iterative process. Again, what we've done is we've tied an accountability measure to that to make sure that over time, this practice, it's a shift. It's not a dramatic shift to practice, but it's a shift to practice because of its uniformity. But the idea is that this practice emerges more consistently in every classroom. Okay. When it comes to conduct, and let me stay with academics. At the Tier 2 level, okay, for students who are still underperforming, then we take a look at more intensive supports, okay? And those supports are traditionally small group kind of instruction that really drills down to learning gaps. And if over time that doesn't prove to be beneficial, then we certainly look for a more intensive support, which is typically going to be a one-on-one, maybe the infusion of an outside resource such as internet-based program to help support learning gaps. If that still doesn't work, then we work with a special education department to assess the child to see if there's any kind of individualized need that's needed. From a behavior standpoint, there's some very, very foundational expectations around classroom management. And then additionally from Tier 2 for kids who are identified to incur more infractions than normal, then the idea is to have a comprehensive wraparound support, okay? And oftentimes what we do is we look to, I won't say oftentimes, 100% of the times, we look to employ the partnership of parents, but we also look at different resources and supports that we have across the campus, such as social workers, school counselors, teachers that kids have relationships with. We have a community resource liaison, Kendrick Moore, who's amazing with our students. And it can be somebody as simple as our security guard or a cafeteria lady, whoever they have to support with. And then obviously with the tier 3 piece, we employ more clinical analysis and try to figure out supports. By that I'm talking about, we look at things such as FBAs, look at BIPs, and then we narrow down the kind of supports that we need to have. As I alluded to earlier, one of the biggest challenges that we have right now is around attendance. Okay, and that's something we don't really necessarily have a thumb on. We're having a lot of conversations, we're looking at a lot of data, we're coming up with a lot of hypotheses. And this is something that, in my opinion, in our opinion, has to be programmatic in a way that really involves participation and partnership with families. Okay, simply put, kids need to get out of bed. Okay, and come to school, and they need to do that consistently. Okay, our concern is that with as prevalent as this is, our fear, our hope is that it's not become culture. okay, where it's all right to get up later to come to school. There's, as you can assume, there's a lot of implications that are tied to that, such as progress towards graduation. So we're still having a lot of conversations, trying to analyze a lot of data. We're employing strategies from time to time. But I think in this aspect, the partnership of families, communication, and trust go a long way helping us address that challenge.
I just had one follow-up question related to CSS. I appreciate the way that you broke down academics and conduct into that multi-tiered, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and how it's approached. How do you know it's working?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Okay, so myself and the assistant principals, each assistant principal is assigned each and every one of those systems. Okay, so obviously the most transparent way to say it's working is if you see improvement in numbers, right? Mm-hmm. So keep in mind the way I opened up this meeting. One of the things that I said is this is really the first year, the inception of it. Okay, so I don't want to use the phrase flying the plane while you're building it, okay, because I feel pretty confident about its design, to be 100% honest with you. But you design a system and you implement it, and sometimes the system has to fit the container. Okay, so one of the things that we are doing is we're being very cognizant about it, we're monitoring, we're watching it, okay, and we're trying to measure and use data to inform our decision making. But in every instance that we find that it's not working, we will tweak it, okay? And what I have commissioned the assistant principals to do is take a look at this data, because at the mid-year break, which is shortly after Christmas, after we return, we're going to have a building leadership meeting, okay? And one of the very specific questions that you all kind of nod in favor is exactly the question that you just asked. I said we need to have a mechanism in place that measures, okay, or suggests to us that it's actually working. Because if it's not, we're not all Einsteins. If it's not, we have to go back to the drawing board to be tweaked in order to ensure that it's meeting the learning needs of all of our students.
You had mentioned agency to speak about challenges and hardships. Now that's student agency.
Student agency.
So creating opportunities for students to share with you and inform your decision making.
The unique thing about Windsor High School is we don't have to create opportunities. Our kids will come to you. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's something. That's a strength. That's an asset. Okay, so we have different groups of kids who have different interests, and one of the things that they will tell you is, we like our voice to be heard. What I feel blessed about is our kids are very professional and collegial about the way they make their presentation. So I made it clear last year when I got here, I'm going to sit down and listen to any kind of pitch, okay, but I would like for you to make sure it's well thought out, okay? If we have the resources and infrastructure to go ahead and implement it, we will do it every time. So case in point, kids from our Action Club presented to myself, it was probably about 17 kids, presented to myself and the assistant principals, and I know they've done some other outreach to my colleagues in our school system. They presented an idea of a campaign that's designed to address all the isms, okay, sexisms, racism, classisms, genderisms, all those different isms. It was very well thought out. We gave them feedback comprehensively, and the feedback is intended to generate homework, i.e. flesh out the idea a little bit more, consider this, and so forth. And they're in that phase of that right now, okay? There are numerous other topics that students obviously visit with myself or assistant principals that they put on the table. But I will say this, from an agency standpoint, I've never seen a student population like we have here at Windsor, and I'm very proud of that. That's an asset, not just here, but after they leave Windsor as opposed to schools.
My last comment, I know that we're stretched on time, is that what I've witnessed, kind of the work that I did also as a graduate of Windsor High School, is that there's often a group of students who, for whatever reason, feel marginalized from that process of offering feedback. Not that the school itself is doing that on purpose, but for whatever reason, they lack that
agency.
We'll call it agency of intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So standardizing a process for receiving student feedback is, you know, it may be helpful for some of those students who don't necessarily feel prepared for whatever reason to kind of share with you. Maybe it's an authority, fear of authority, whether it's, you know, they have a lot of struggles that they don't feel like they can talk about with anybody.
Right.
But I don't know, that just came to me. So I appreciate though your presentation, it was really comprehensive.
Thanks, Mikhail.
I just have one question regarding
Sure, Dave.
us, ninth graders.
Yep.
And I know I'll be able to speak with you in more in depth next week when you come to visit. I know a number of years ago, because I had children who went to Windsor High School, there was a concern coming, I'm looking at Paul here, kids who came from the middle school getting adjusted to ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of things do you have in place? I know what we were seeing back even in those days, where there was a number of students who didn't qualify their second year to really be sophomores.
Right.
What kind of supports are there? I don't know if this is a strength or a weakness. What do
No,
you see as far as
definitely
ninth
it's a
grade?
strength, okay? And I will speak about this. I will say this publicly, the ninth grade class this year is far easier than previous ninth grade classes. But one of the things that, in my opinion, okay, and this is my my professional philosophy with the work I've done in education, the hardest year of high school is the freshman year, okay? I think the business year is the junior year, but the hardest year of high school is the freshman year. So there's a couple different things that we've done, okay? Kendrick Moore was a community resource liaison, designed and implemented a speed pass program, which is really carves out a chunk of the kids' summer to give them an early introduction into high school, okay? And we're able to reach approximately 55 or 60% of the incoming freshman class over the two cohorts, okay? So they spend time at Windsor High School in the summer. They have different speakers. School counseling comes in and speaks to kids about what high school life should look like. There's tours, there's different events. There's leadership and character development activities that's tied to that. That is one strategy, okay? The other piece now is this, is when I looked at organizational responsibilities, knowing that priorities to do as much work as possible to make sure that the rising eighth graders transition as seamlessly as possible, it became clear to me that I needed to assign somebody who keep a close eye on all of them, okay? So as I introduced my assistant principals at the beginning of this presentation, I spoke to you about Ms. Jones and Ms. Davis, who have the top three grades, okay? So with the addition of Mr. Barry Parker this year, who was somebody who was just completely blown me away in terms of his transition into our school community with our kids and our families and just the way he relates and is able to work with kids. The freshman class is a small kids club, okay? So he has purview over each and every one of those things. And one of the things that he does on a routine basis is run data, okay? Again, he is also the assistant principal who oversees MTSS. Okay, so he's constantly looking at data to inform decisions, disseminating those data points to other assistant principals and individuals in our support staff and teachers as well. So those are some strategies. The other piece now is a customized advisory program that's designed to help kids, freshmen, with their transition, okay? Every advisory is designed based on grade level needs. So we have those things. And then the other thing that we do is we have an early introduction in the spring. We work seamlessly with Ms. Cavalieri and his administrative team to have kids come in the spring to get an early presentation. And then also just letting them know who their outlets are.
Thank you.
All right, I just got a couple questions. One, the community service hours that's run through Mr. Bianchi. Can you express how many hours were logged by students last year and where are we currently this year?
I was not prepared to share that information. Okay. I will tell you this, namely, what we do is we look at the senior class because they're the cohort nearest to graduation. Okay, it's a graduation requirement as issued by a board. and we take a look at that. So I just actually had a conversation with Ms. Jones and Ms. Lordfoot Mitchell, okay, to get that information to me before Christmas break. Okay, so we do have a spreadsheet for that. Speaking, what we saw last year is that, and certainly our kids are fully involved in the community. What we saw last year, though, however, is that for some of our seniors, they were scrambling at the end. You know, they put it on the back burner, and senior year, spring on the senior year, they realize it's a graduation requirement. I have my grades, I have my GPA, I have my credit. So what now happens is supply and demand. You have a lot of kids scrambling for the same community service opportunities. So one of the things that we spoke about, and one of the things I've spoken to the kids about, is every year we want you to get 5 hours of community service in order to make progress towards your requirement. And I told them, they weren't happy about it, they grumble about it, but you're not gonna be able to buy prom tickets, okay, until you demonstrate that you have 5 and 10. So hopefully, that mitigates the process and allows kids to get early involvement as a freshman and a sophomore. I'm saying that now, but I also know for a fact, very publicly, that we have a slew of students, particularly, namely students in our ROTC program, who have 200 plus hours, okay? Think about it, the graduation requirement is 20, okay? So to get 200 plus hours just talks about the virtues that our kids come to the table with, and I know for a fact that what is important for me today is to highlight, okay, all the good that our kids are doing.
That's why I wanted to bring that out, because that is a very strong positive that's going on at the high school in your leadership. Also in your leadership, I'm seeing that all students are being treated equally, no matter if they're special ed, athletic, talented, gifted, no matter. At the end of the day, they're students. They're not student athletes, they're athletic students. At the end of the day, they're students, and your team is coming to work every day and giving your all to provide a very safe environment for our students. Are there challenges that you have to endure on a daily basis? I'm sure there are. However, I'm here to tell you that as president of the board, we're here to support you. We're here to support your staff and to make sure that we give you every fair chance and opportunity to do what you need to do to educate our students and graduate them and prepare them for the world. So on behalf of the board, I thank you and your staff for everything you're doing at the high school.
I tell you this, Mr. Lockhart, I thank you, each and every one of you on this board. Like I said, we had a faculty meeting today, and I stood in front of almost 115 staff members, and I was very clear and demanding. We have a lot of work to do, okay? And we will not shy away from that work, okay? Because our kids are they're more than students. They're our kids, they're Windsor kids. And that's a commitment that we made to them. We need our kids to step up as well. They're young adults, they're not babies. We're confident our kids will be able to step up, but set the expectations and keep those expectations high. Hold them accountable, let them know we're going to love and support them along the way. So thank you, each of you, for your continued support. We're going to continue to do this work by day.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Paul Cavallari,
Good evening.
Junior Principal of Sage Park Middle School. I've been in the field of education since 1974 and enjoyed every minute of it. 9 years as a teacher and 34 years as a public school administrator. The last 25 as a middle level principal. 10 years in Plainville and the last 17 and most enjoyable here in Windsor. What's helped me serve the test of time, in addition to my youthful outlook on life and my love to always be a middle schooler at heart, I've been really blessed with the past 8 years with two outstanding assistant principals that helped make Sage Park a really strong administrative team and have brought us to a level of excellence and being well recognized for many programs that we have at our school at the state level. And those two people are Mrs. Leanna Jorgensen and Mr. William Fisher. They've had to put up with me the last 8 years and helped us achieve many of the things that I'm going to talk about briefly today. Under strengths, and this is in no particular order, but we're really proud of all of these, our Family Resource Center. This is a new development at Sage Park. We're following the good role and models at the elementary level, and we've established the Family Resource Center at Sage Park. Our vision for Sage Park is to enhance the home-to-school connection by embracing the diversity of our students and their families through an active partnership where all stakeholders are empowered to enhance students' emotional and academic success. This activity just started 2 years ago. I'm here to report that as of this date, we now do have a Family Resource Center at Sage Park, located in room 127. Under the good support of Mr. Russell Sills, we were able to mid-year this year add a Family Resource Center staff member, half-time at our school. Through her leadership and the leadership of other committee members at school, we've established a series of workshops that have been launched to inform families, parents about issues affecting middle school students. We are currently putting together a multicultural night, which will take place this Friday night. And we've created many community partnerships, creating that relationship between the community and our school. Sage Park leaders in 110 strong in 7th and 8th grade. This is a really, really special program dear to my heart. The Sage Park Leaders is a program for young men and women to help them learn how to utilize their leadership abilities to have a positive impact on their school and their community. This group stemmed from a Young Men of Color Leadership Conference that we took 36 young men of color to in December of 2015. The young men that attended this conference were inspired by the award-winning motivational speaker, Mr. Arik Jackson. After the conference, these young men wanted to continue their work with leadership. Thus, we launched Sage Park Leaders. Through student and community feedback, we added a young women's group for the 2016-2017 school year. We expect that we see positive peer relationships are created and supported through this program with the help students become more connected to school and create emotionally safe school climate. They are leaders in our building. Through our leadership activities, planned sessions, and community service projects facilitated by 9 advisory teachers. The program is so well supported in school that 9 teachers volunteer their time to work with our young adults, and they're required to meet with them at least twice a month, once during the day and once after school. We still work with a leadership consultant, and these young men and women participate in activities that will enhance their educational experience. They're also required to do community service. Teacher leadership across the school. A well-run middle school needs to have people besides just the administrators leading different components of the school. And so our school has 24 teacher leaders, 12 of which are team leaders. They run each of our teams at our school and some off-team areas. And then we also have 12 data team leaders. Those are 4 per grade, 1 in each academic area. They run, they look at curriculum 3 times a week and run data and information relative to all of our testings, both in building and state level assessments. They analyze those and they talk about appropriate strategies for implementing instruction in their academic area. After school enrichment, talking about getting every child, Mr. Bosch, connected to school. That's always been the objective of our middle school. Still not at complete 100%, but we pride ourselves on the things we do after school to help kids be connected. One example is our after-school enrichment programs. Enrichment clusters, we call them, currently running, just to give you an idea of what goes on after school. The clusters running right now are the Performing Arts Troupe, Real Robots, Art Club, 3D Maker Box, Chef's Club, Charger Creations, American Sign Language, Cheerleading, and Crafty Beavers and Weavers. Which one are you going to take? Each of those clubs meets 11 times in the fall, once a week. Then they're required to go to an expo rehearsal, and then we do an enrichment cluster expo where all the kids' culinary products are out for full display for parents. And we do this twice a year. So we have the fall and we have a similar session in the spring. It's really, really a great activity. All of those clubs are led by our teachers. Summit, this was the brainchild of Mr. William Fisher, wherein our school operates under the theory that no child should fail any one class, actually for any marking period, and hopefully certainly not for the year. Hard task to do, but we work really hard at it. The teachers work really hard at it. And to help us achieve that goal, we have a program called Summit. The goal of Summit is to provide students with additional assistance on homework and school assignments in a positive atmosphere that's conducive to learning. Summit is an after-school program being offered to all students. The program consists of a certified teacher and a paraprofessional in each classroom. We currently offer one Summit class per team that meets once a week. So there's at least 10 different after-school academic support programs going on in our school each and every week. We encourage the kids to go in there. The parents look it up on the portal. So if we can't get them in there, oftentimes their parents help us get those students in those programs. They're working with their certified team teacher, and they're making up assignments and working on classwork to help them meet the standards of instruction in the school. We have a new accelerated math curriculum. This is through the help and support of our math supervisor, the director of assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction, and Leanna Jorgensen has been really instrumental with this. Right now, grade 6 and 7/8 math teachers are in the process of implementing a new accelerated curriculum to prepare students who are on a path to take algebra in grade 8. In addition to covering all grade level standards, accelerated courses also include a number of standards from advanced grade levels. The curriculum is specifically designed to provide students with material that is both challenging and appropriate for their abilities. Now, under the operating opportunities area, we too, like every school you hear, we work with the MTSS system. In our school, we're undergoing an effort to streamline the support systems provided across grade levels for students requiring Tier 2 and Tier 3 support, academic and behavioral. So we have revised our MTSS referral and meeting process. We believe revising the process helps to foster sustainability and the ease of use. The structured process will build the skill level of the team leaders to facilitate meetings. So currently our team leaders are undergoing training from a person from EastCon that help them learn more about the process, follow through on the process, and then run the team meetings where students are discussed and entered into the process if needed. Talk about something new. We gave the PSAT 8-9, first time ever at our middle school. It was given this fall. The PSAT 8-9 is highly relevant to a student's future because it focuses on the skills and knowledge at the heart of education. It measures what you will learn in high school and what you need to succeed in college. So we haven't got the scores back yet, but our kids did take it in the fall. This is going to give them a good measure of where they are and where they need to be and what they can do to improve. It also, another benefit is it gives a baseline for your college readiness. It prepares them for the PSAT and SAT. And talking about AP, it also shows which AP courses for which you might be ready to be challenged at when you get to Windsor High School. Grade level team building activities. Like any middle school, we're not all just academics. We have to make sure that we make connections with our kids, teachers and students, be engaged, be comfortable with them, get them to be comfortable with us, and through that then we can increase their learning opportunities. So we required every grade level team to do a team building activity in the fall. This is the first year, this is the third year that we've been doing this, and we've seen great success because a lot of connections that normally might not occur do occur when we do these activities. Each grade level did one activity this fall, and they have the second one planned in the near future. Another offshoot of the teacher's contract and what was built in, where there was an expectation that additional night, evening activity the teachers would be required to do during the course of the year. We looked at that and expanded upon that opportunity. So we have what are called grade level academic content nights. And we have 5 of those nights, not just one, 5 of those nights planned for this year, the same as we did last year. So I asked that every grade level do their own evening, which they have, so that will increase the level of parent engagement, and we can just focus on one grade level of parents and kids as opposed to the whole school. And then our teachers ran with that, and then the unified arts area felt left out. So they justifiably so came up with a really, really appropriate evening for just unified arts. It's very informal, but really, really a fantastic night. And then our kids that need additional support in the reading, language arts, and mathematics area also felt, those teachers, that they didn't fit in exactly with the other grade level nights, so they created yet their own night where they have those parents come in. And these nights are not a show and tell. It's more about kids demonstrating projects, getting things that they're doing so that the parents will want to come in and explore the learning and make parent-community connections during those activities. And then curriculum development for our English language arts area. The 6A English language arts curriculum is currently being revised. The goal is to have a final product in the hands of teachers by the beginning of next school year. The implementation of our new instructional framework, including implementation of the workshop model, has necessitated curriculum revision to align reading and writing lessons so they can be taught using the workshop model. So that's ongoing, and teachers are completely involved in the activity. And if you didn't think that was enough, we followed the elementary school with student-led conferences. And I'll wager to guess you have no idea how many are occurring between today, tomorrow, and Thursday. But student-led conferences reflect the belief that students should be actively involved in their learning. I was a little skeptical about this, but once again, Leanna Jorgensen and Bill Fisher pushed the issue and made sure that we started it this year, and we have, and the teachers fully embraced it. It was embraced because teachers took the time to learn about it during the summer, and it was brought to the teachers by teachers instead of me or any of them telling them that this is what we should do. So that's how it got sold. If we told them they were going to do it, we would have got a lot of pushback. But we didn't, and it's going like game busters. And yes, if you guess 575 conferences, hear that again, and this is not a made-up thing. If you want to produce the data, Mr. Lockhart, I will give it to you tomorrow. We have 575 student-led conferences between these 3 days at our school.
Can you say it one more time?
575.
That's a great number.
So strategies for improvement. On the academic side, there's a lot going on, and I give the directors and Dr. Oliver a lot of credit. They're working hard with our school coaches and our teachers to focus on certain areas that help students grow. Some of those areas are on students with high needs. We're all looking at those more closely and seeing what strategies we could use to help them be better learners and achieve at higher levels. Also in the English language arts area, teachers are being encouraged to conference more during their classes, meet individually with kids, help them with their instruction on an individual basis, and then that'll make them better learners. And we also are implementing the math workshop model. And that model has 4 basic parts that include warm-up, mini lesson, collaborative work time, and closure. And the math workshop is a structure that gradually releases the work of learning the math and the responsibility to do so over to the students. So that's a whole different mindset for our teachers, but they're working hard in transitioning to that process. Climate and culture, we're really proud that we've begun the implementation of the Second Step program. We want every child to be successful in school, and that means going beyond the basics. So excelling in academic classes is important, but students also need to know how to learn, make good decisions, handle strong emotions, and get along with others. So the Second Step Middle School program focuses on skills and concepts that are designed to help students both in and out of the school. We're happy to say that we began looking at this program in the spring of last year, and now have brought it to fruition. We're in the second week of it, and there's an activity that goes on for every week for the rest of the school year. It's a 30-minute lesson. And there's 4 major focus areas in this program. They're mindset and goals, values and friendships, thoughts, emotions, decisions, and serious peer conflicts. So our teaching staff is going to take our kids through that each and every week. It's a differentiated curriculum. It's different curriculum for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, although they follow the same themes. I was in this classroom today and watched a teacher deliver it. My job, our job, is to be in the room each week when that is delivered so we can follow through on it as we work with our kids each and every day. The New England Association of Schools and Colleges and its audit for accreditation. This is an extremely difficult, time-consuming process, but it's one that we value. Middle schools are not required to do this. Every high school in New England and Connecticut is required to do it. It occurs every 10 years. I asked the superintendent if I could get out of it, but he didn't let me. So we're doing it again this year, but we're doing it and we're enjoying doing it. What does it do? It does the following. It encourages a vision for growth and development in schools, so we have to look at ourselves, see where we are, and see where we need to be. It focuses on school improvement by encouraging schools to self-reflect, set and work towards goals, and act on feedback for continuous progress toward its vision for growth. And lastly, it supports schools to create or maintain structures and collaborative cultures for systematic learning for both the students and adults that result in some good growth and change. So it's a 3-year process. We're doing our self-reflection this year, spending much of our professional time doing that. Once again, it's a teacher-leader process. We have 2 co-chairs, and then we have 8 standard chairs. Those are all teachers. The administrators just help and facilitate and support. And then at the end of the year, through our self-reflection, we'll create a school improvement and learning plan for next year, which will work that plan through the year, and then the visit will occur the following year where they evaluate how we did relative to our plan. Another new thing at Sage Park, once again following the leadership of elementary schools, is the home visits. So home visits have been an incredible platform for meeting the social, emotional, and academic needs of our students and families. So our teachers and school staff was encouraged to take part in those and work those through the school year. So far, we've completed 25 home visits to families. Those are making additional connections. Teachers are doing some, a couple every week. Each teacher is encouraged to do it. In the talent development area, as part of the talent development goals of our school improvement plan, coaching cycles have been implemented in an effort to build teacher skill in the delivery of instruction. This is the 2nd year that we have 2 full-time coaches, one in the humanities areas, one's in the math and science area. The goal is to have every teacher involved in a coaching cycle at some point during the year, and the cycles are mostly composed of classroom visits, feedback, teacher reflection, and sharing resources. And last but not least, our year-long building-wide consultant work. We've been really fortunate. Dr. Al Oliver was able to secure resources to help build teacher skills across all the department areas. So we're very fortunate to have the support of Lit Life. It's a specified consultant group, CREC, Dr. Rachel Gabriel, and the Connecticut Science Center as consultants to work with us and provide us with side-by-side professional learning. So believe it or not, all 4 of those groups come in the same 8 days during the year, and they work during those days, during school time when teachers are in curriculum meeting time, not teaching kids, so they're not missing teaching, and they work with them in strategies. All language arts, math, social studies, and science teachers receive this support. Lit Life and Correct support the language arts and math teachers in planning and the delivery of instruction through the workshop model. Dr. Gabriel supports the social studies teachers in identifying and using effective strategies to help students access the curriculum. And the Connecticut Science Center is helping support us in the implementation of NGSS and those new standards as our curriculum in science, like every other school, is being revised to meet those. So that's ongoing work. So we're really proud and excited about our accomplishments in the past. We're in a very much learning and school improvement stage professionally for teachers and kids, and we're excited about what we're doing and how we're doing it this school year.
All right. Any questions for the middle school principal? Comments? Mr. Fury?
Yeah, similar one that I asked Mr. Sunday. What can you tell us about sixth graders at Sage? What specific programs you have? Because obviously they're coming from elementary school, and it's a transition to them. Can you describe some of the things that are done specifically for sixth grade?
We have a very comprehensive program that we've done for years, and it's been with great success. Because the one way that I measure it is that no sixth grader cries on the first day of school. And we were 100% the last several years with meeting that goal. But leading up to that is a lot of hard work by a lot of people in the Windsor Public Schools, highlighted by there's a 5th to 6th transition night, the second day back in January. So 5th grade parents come through our school and learn about our programs directly from the teachers and kids. That's supported by myself, the grade level vice principal that'll have sixth graders, and the school counselor that'll have sixth graders. We visit each of the elementary family resource centers in January. Those dates are the second week of January. They've already been set for this coming year. And then that's followed by each of the 5th grade schools visit Sage Park prior to the February vacation. We do it in smaller groups of maybe 60 or so students. So the 5th grade teachers bring them over. We have a brief 2.5-hour program that we take those kids through and their teachers to hopefully help them be comfortable with the school. They go through the cafeteria. They take a tour of the school. All of it's student-led, by the way, so they can ask the questions from kids and get the real answers instead of asking them from adults and get answers that they're not necessarily going to believe. And they also sit in 6th grade classrooms in session. And then there's a question and answer session at the end. So that's another piece of that. Then I'm extremely proud of, several years ago, we put out on the table that we believe that 6th graders should have an opportunity to visit our school in the summer. So we worked with the town rec department, and I believe it should be at no cost, and they agreed. So we have a summer transition program that's open to any incoming 5th grader at no charge. They just have to sign up through the rec department. We usually get about 75% of the incoming 5th graders take part in that 4-day program that's about 2.5 hours a day, led by our school guidance department, and our teachers come in to work with those kids, and that gets them just another level of comfort in our building. Most of the hardest stuff is not really about the classes in the beginning. It's how do you get around a bigger school, and then how do you open your locker. You master the locker, baby, there is no problems, because that's the biggest tension builder. And then the way our school is set up, it facilitates 6th grade learning and very few issues. They come in their own door. They have a section of the school so that all their academics are separate from 7th and 8th. So they're a school within a school with a vice principal, teachers that only work with 6th grade and love 6th graders to death, and a school counselor. And we facilitate that because the administrator and the counselor follow those young adults as 7th and 8th graders, so there's no reconnecting with parents as we move through the cycle. So that's what we do.
Thank you.
Mr. Dobler?
I just had 17 questions for you.
We're running out of time. My half hour is up.
Just one quick comment and then one question. I really like the fact that you guys have implemented the home visits. I've had many conversations with principals as well as teachers from the elementary schools. And it's just been nothing but great response from them. So that's my comment. Or the one question I have is, I did not see on here, under opportunities, chronic absenteeism. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's an area that we believe we have well under control. We have systems all in place to deal with that. So the list would have been too long. But to answer your question very directly, we talk about student attendance every week. We have a guidance administrative meeting every Monday. The first item on the agenda is looking at student tardiness and student attendance. We chart every child. When and if they meet, they go to 4 absences or 10 absences. We have a set protocol, as every school does, with calling parents, talking to students, counselors meeting with students, administrators meeting with students, sending official letters that you're required to do by the state, and then charting all of that. Our goal is to reduce any and all of that as much as we can. To be very honest with you, much of the absenteeism comes from family vacations. We find more and more, and so we do make the phone calls, we make efforts to help parents understand that any day missed from school is not a good thing. And so we work hard with that each and every week.
Ms. Piper?
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart, and thank you, Mr. Cavalieri and team. First is a comment. I think having a family resource center at the middle school level is just exceptional. I'm huge on the homeschool connection, and a lot of times it's almost like you get to middle school and they, not the 3 of you, but other middle schools are like, we don't need the parents. So I think having that connection is very, very important. So it's just great to see that. However, I do want to ask, the academic content nights, is that similar to the partner meetings that are held at the elementary level, or is it? Oh, okay.
I don't know what the partner, I don't know what that's referring to.
Your face
so
said that. Your face was like, I don't know what a partner
what
meeting
that
is.
So
Okay.
probably not.
Okay.
So the teachers work within the grade level and then with their students to craft a night that they think would be engaging and interesting to parents and just information pertinent to their grade level.
Okay.
And then they work as a grade to have the parents come in and go through whatever they might be highlighting that night and get them actively involved in it.
Similar connection would be maybe like a science night at the elementary level.
Okay.
That would be.
All right. Thank you. Just looking
You're
for
welcome.
connection points. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Ms. Bosch?
First, thanks. I learned so much at these meetings. This could be my favorite meeting of the whole year as a board member, hearing the presentations from the school. If it's not my favorite, it's a top 3. And I did learn a lot, and not just about the Weavers and Beavers, which I haven't heard about that program before, but the questions I have are going to focus on the Second Step program. That is one of the things I learned about in being, I think you said in the second week, it is a new program. So my first question, and there might be a few on this, is this something for all students, or is there a target population that this is focused on?
It's all students.
Okay, so what are and I think you listed them before, but in terms of what the program looks like, is there like a homeroom classroom teacher that's delivering it as part of their time? Is it more like the high school where you have an advisory committee time where they're going over it? But what does it become?
Sure.
Okay.
Our teacher committee chose to distribute the time because, like with any school, it's very hard to give up academic time. But we looked at it as a school and felt that the time devoted to this program was worth losing some, quote, academic time. But to make that so it didn't impact any one particular class, the way we chose to implement it was by grade level and by team and by subject. So for an example, today I was in 8th grade social studies class period 2. That's where the lesson was delivered. Next week, the lesson will be delivered during 8th grade period 3. The following week, period 4. So each one of the teachers and each of the young adults classes will be delivering that particular week's lesson. So as that content area will only lose about 30 minutes every 5 weeks of instruction. So each child gets it every week from a different teacher, but within their academic realm. It's all on team, we call it.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that explanation. And I know you said it started a couple weeks ago. Do you envision if it's successful program, it would start at the beginning of the school year going forward, or would it start a little further?
That's
into the
something
school
for us
year?
to look at. Sure. It turns out when we were able to start it, it does take through the rest of the year with no doubling up, so it has that many lessons per se. I think if we look at it again for next year, there might be a way, there certainly could be multiple ways that we could deliver it differently and space it out if we so choose during the course of the whole year. We don't have an advisory time, we don't have an extended homeroom time, so that we weren't able to deliver it during that time, and this is the way we chose to do it.
And just as a final question for me, period, but how would you measure the success of the Second Step program as you finish up the year and you're looking into next year? You look back and say, was this a successful program? Was it not? Do we want to do it next year? How do we want to do it differently? How would you look to assess the success?
There'll be at least 4 ways. We'll do a student survey, and by grade level, because that's the way that you're going to get very accurate information from them. We'll ask the teachers. We'll do a staff survey. We're all part of it, so we're seeing it and participating in it as it's being delivered. And then the program also has an assessment tool that can be used or questions changed based on your implementation of it. It's a national-wide program. We did the research on it. It came recommended from Teacher of the Year Committee statewide, and then we began our research and found that, from what we can tell, it would be the best program for middle-level students. And that's why we chose to do it.
All right, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Mr. Governor, I just want to thank you. It was a tough start to the school year with some of the social media stuff that came out about the middle school, which severely bothered me. But it has not shaken my faith in you and your leadership and your team. I want your resolve to remain strong and continue to do what you do for our children. It was disappointing that you had to go through that, but I appreciate your professionalism and you coming to work every day doing your job in spite of. So you have the full support of this board under my leadership to continue to do what you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Virginia Hurl, the principal of Oliver Ellsworth School. With me, I have Kim Wood, the assistant principal of Oliver Ellsworth, and a true partnership in this journey and this process. Little background on myself. I came to Windsor in 1999 as a certified 4th grade teacher. Prior to that, I started as a tutor and substitute at John F. Kennedy. I was a 4th and 5th grade teacher for 15 years at JFK. For 3 years after that, the assistant principal at JFK, and now the proud principal of Oliver Ellsworth. When we talk about strengths and opportunities, strengths, I know that quite a few people have talked about MTSS, and that's an area of opportunity. I'm feeling, we're feeling in our school that MTSS is a strength for us right now. We've been in PBIS, the PBIS realm for about 6 years. MTSS really began last year. For Oliver Ellsworth this year, we have streamlined that process. We began by creating norms, roles, and responsibilities, really looking at what MTSS is. I was privileged enough to come with some background knowledge from JFK to help streamline the process. So we have our outlined our norms. We've created a guide for the meetings. We have our main action plan, which drives all of our drives our focus and the items that we work on. A strength of that, what has come out of that as well, is the student support team process, and this was created with the assistance of the district interventionist, Dr. Klein. And this was a way for us to streamline the process for teachers. If they had a concern around a child academically or behaviorally, after some interventions had been put in place and data gathered, documentation done, it was a way for teachers to bring to the MTSS the way for the teachers to bring that child to our awareness, and then the child would be, not the child, but the paperwork would be pushed into the process. We have a huge commitment to that piece, the MTSS process. We feel very strong about it. We are working with Erin Dunn, who is an EastCon consultant, and she is the last year working with the district. So we are actually having quarterly leadership meetings with her. So from the MTSS team, we have a core group of 4 individuals who are leading, will be taking over the leadership portion of MTSS and really driving that piece for us. So we feel actually quite strong about that. Another strength of ours, we feel, is family community engagement. We have partnered with the Windsor Butterfly Project that was developed by Kate Lang, who was actually, she is a Windsor resident. She was actually a tutor at John F. Kennedy as well. We connected with that project and brought the project to school, where the elementary classrooms all received a butterfly cage, and then from a chrysalis to the hatching of the butterfly, they went through the scientific process, and it was a conversation for them. So it was a way to bring the community into the school, but then also develop some more research and scientific observations for those students. That is being coupled with another community engagement piece, Loomis Chafee Gaining Grounds, and that's where high school students from Loomis Chafee are coming to Oliver Ellsworth, and they're working with our grade 2 students, and we're coupling that piece with the Butterfly Project, and we're looking at creating sustainable gardens where milkweed is grown, and we can sustain the butterflies. And it's our goal and a vision that we have that this ends up being a greater good and a greater piece for Oliver Ellsworth. And how do we now connect that to obviously Windsor, and where else can we place that in Windsor? We have our back to school breakfast in the beginning of the year, where we invite all families to come in and meet their teachers, and that's during opening day for teachers. We have a great turnout for that, and it's an informal way for families and teachers to connect and sit down and meet each other, eat together, and was my first one this year. It was really good.
just the opportunity to meet the teacher before the student starts the next day, and provide just a chance for the students to meet the other students within the classrooms.
This year we also had a cultural night, and that's where parents were able to highlight something of their culture. We had henna painting, we had Chinese writing, we had dancing from India, so it was very nicely attended. We're looking to expand that. How do we expand that beyond even just the school? How do we now get community members in to highlight their culture and what's happening for them? Home visits as well. Kindergarten, we have home visits for kindergarten teachers. That is a strength of ours. We have great feedback from families, and we see the relationships that are built between the families and the teachers, and that feeds down into the students, where the students are now more engaged in school, and behaviors are lessened as well when they know the relationship is built. Study circles, that is going to be happening in March 3rd, March 5th, and March 8th, and that's where we're going to begin community conversations on equity. And again, we'll be working with Russell Sills, and how are we going to continue that and grow that. Jim will be joining us as well, hopefully, on that. We also have parent partner nights, and actually this last one we had was very well attended. I think it was one of the highest attended partner nights, and that came from, I believe that's coming from not just the home visits and that teacher-parent relationship. We're having teachers really reach out more to parents, and we're having more parents come into the school. The feedback has been wonderful and seeing parents, the open door policy, having them come in. We have many volunteers that are in classrooms helping students. We have parents coming in and taking learning bags and working with students, and it's another way to get reinforcement of skills. So we're looking on building that as well. And then for a plug, I'm actually looking forward to the relationship with the board liaison. I like the idea of having a board liaison. Jim and I actually sat down, I think 2 weeks ago, and started hammering out some ideas of where we wanted to go, and just some greater good in the community and how we really build OE into a community building and not just a school building. Students incentives at Albert Ellsworth, we have reading mentors, and this is actually a program that was started from one of our new teachers. It's in its second year, and that was part of her Windsor Leadership Project. This is where she is empowering, not just she actually presented at a PD day, Professional Development Day, to other educators, K-2 educators. So we now have 4 teachers at Albert Ellsworth who are gearing their students to become reading mentors. So this is where our students are then learning strategies how to help teach and monitor reading for students who might be struggling. And we're arranging what times during the day, where do we make that fit in. It's a great opportunity to build our young children and to get them ready for some leadership responsibilities. Another student incentive that we are proud of is our music programs. We have a grade 2 chorus that we have 31 students in grade 2 who are part of chorus. We also have strings, and we have 103 students from K-2 that are in strings. It's very popular, and families, we get really good feedback on families. Another strength is our Second Step program. You've heard Uli and Paul speak of that. This is the second year that Albert Ellsworth has had Second Step. Obviously, it's done a little bit differently at pre-K-2 level. It's emotional regulation, social interactions. It's done weekly by teachers. It's used with stories and puppets. It's a way for children to have conversations and discussions around conflict resolution, anger management, and those kinds of things. As Paul had mentioned, there was a question about how are you going to see if it's successful. There will be a staff survey. We're also looking at, obviously, ODR's office discipline referrals. How is that connecting to Second Step? Major successes from 2016 to 2017, we have seen an increase of students reaching grade level benchmark in reading whole school from September 52% to 80% last June, and also a decrease in the average number of referrals for from 2015-16 school year to the 2016-2017 school year. Opportunities, chronic absenteeism. We have created a focus team, and that focus team is outside of the MTSS process. That focus team is myself, building administrator, our school nurse, and as well as our school social worker. We meet weekly. We have data pulled on any students who have 5 or more absences. We've streamlined the process. We have letters that go out every 6th absence and every 8th absence. We require, obviously, parent meetings at the 10th absence. It is an opportunity, as Paul had said, we've struggled this year with many families taking vacations during the school year. Letters have gone home. I have personally spoken to them on the phone and in person, quite a few parents, because they've been concerned about the letter. I said, you need to know that the family vacation is pushing you over the edge. We need to be cognizant that our children really need to be in school. Strengthening Tier 1 is actually another opportunity, and we are using the new instructional coaching framework. Again, that's the framework where there's one-to-one coaching for teachers. Each teacher in the school building will be involved in one cycle with a literacy coach and a math coach. For literacy, it will be around conferring, and math is the workshop model, which would include the new implementation. Math workshop is a new implementation that includes workstations. So teachers need a great deal of support in that process. So strengthening Tier 1 is definitely an opportunity for us. And then student goal setting. This is a whole school focus and something that I've actually really liked at John F. Kennedy, and you are putting the onus and the accountability on the students. So we're looking at personalized student goal setting, academic as well as behavioral. So teachers are now beginning to sit down with students, not just during their conferring time, during math and during reading. They're also taking time to sit down with them and discuss what goals, academic goals do you have, what behavior goals do you have. And it could be, their focus, it could be, it could be anything. So we're looking at how do we help children be more accountable for not only their academics, but for their social and emotional and behavioral pieces as well. Major initiatives that we have are, again, MTSS, even though that's a strength. We see that's a major initiative as well. Again, this is our second year. We are streamlining the process. We are connecting it with building data team, as well as the professional learning community, the PLC. This year, we have our PLC leaders are now on the building data team. That was not happening previously. It was a way, we thought it was a perfect opportunity to streamline that process, and where we have from MTSS and district data team coming to building data team, and then from that piece, since we have our PLC leaders on that building data team, they're going back to their grade level team members, and the information is getting filtered as they've heard it. So there's less misunderstanding. Again, a laser focus on implementation of Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions as well through MTSS. Another major incentive is our commitment to family and community engagement, and I spoke to that previously. It's a huge focus for us. How do we, as a school building, and as we say, as a community, bring ourselves out to the community, but then bring the community into us? How does our building become a place that, how can we provide avenues and opportunities for community members and adults to use our facility, and where it becomes a hand-in-hand piece. Another major incentive is our NIAC accreditation. We are working on that piece. The application has been submitted. We're waiting for the visit, and while that is happening, the classroom portfolios are being worked on, and we're also looking at the Connect. An initiative is the Connect for Learning, and that's the implementation of the new preschool curriculum. So those are some big things that are on our table, but we feel are in good standing. Strategies for improvement. Sorry. Academics, continued analysis of data through MTSS, building data team, and PLC. That's also going to include walkthroughs, and that's where we're taking dipsticks, and we have look fors. What are we looking for? What patterns and trends are we seeing in implementation? Again, coaching cycles, that's the one-to-one coaching cycles with all teachers. Math workshop implementation, and then look-ahead sessions. And look-ahead sessions are our professional growth sessions, and that's where our coaches deliver professional development to our classroom teachers, and that could be around new curriculums. It could be around math workshop, implementation of workstations. Strategies for improvement, positive school climate, spring study circles, as I had mentioned, home visits. We're looking to expand and offering that to grades 1 and 2 as well. Of course, it'll be voluntary, but we would like to have grade 1, 2, and teachers make those visits as well. And then also start to think about how we can make home visits a part of the school year, not just happening in the fall, but how do we make 2 or 3 visits as well? And then thinking about grade 2 at the end of the year. Do we do a home visit at the end of the year to help them transition and process into JFK? Talent development, providing opportunities for teacher leaders. We have the Windsor Leadership Corps, obviously cooperating teachers. That's looking a little different because of team. And then professional development presenters. We've already had 3 Oliver Ellsworth teachers present PD. One was around beyond the newsletter, how do you connect better with families and the community. And then also provide opportunities in and out of the district aligned with the school improvement plan and SEED goals. Back to the positive school climate piece, I missed increased student agency, and again, I spoke to that. That's the goal setting piece. Another strategy for improvement, obviously, is our systems for success. When we talk about the multi-tiered systems of support and building data team and PLCs, it is all a system. They cannot live and breathe by themselves, and we need to streamline that piece. So as we really look at MTSS and we have those processes going and down to the building data team and to the PLC leaders, we feel that not only obviously will teacher practice improve, but also student learning will improve. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Dolan.
Again, just a real quick question, I believe, in regard to the home visits. Do you guys do, or have you thought about including home visits, new students, or the pre-K students at all?
Pre-K, that's a conversation, we've thought about that, but that's definitely a conversation that's on the table. New students, we need to start looking at that, so yes, that's something we'll talk about.
Once, twice. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
And gals.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how you guys doing?
Yeah, we're well, thank you.
He's a sixth grade
All
math
right, well,
teacher.
thank you for having us.
Administrative certifications.
I'm Mary Cravanola, the proud principal of John F. Kennedy Elementary School. And to my left is Matthew Gaffney, who is my new assistant principal. Fortunate to have him. It's been a true partnership because Matt is very strong in math and I'm very strong in literacy, so we complement each other really well. I've been in education for over 30 years now. I have taught grades 1 through 5 in Holyoke, Mass. Then I taught middle school reading in Windsor Locks, and I was an instructional coach there as well. And then now I'm here in Windsor. This is my 6th year as a principal.
I taught for 10 years high school math in Enfield. I taught 3 years in Hartford as an instructional coach. This is my first year in Windsor as an assistant principal, first administration.
So if you look very carefully at the picture that Matt took, oh, go back one. You can see to the right is a little rainbow. If you look very carefully, so you can see our little pot of gold there, even though we're not Clover School, but we got Yeah, you like that? All right. So the first thing we'll talk about is we're very proud of our chronic absenteeism. We've worked very hard on this since the accountability report came out and since I've been there. We have a system in place to really monitor students, as you've heard. A lot of this is going to be repetitive, so I'm going to try to move a little quicker because a lot of the terms you've heard and the things that are going on at OE are happening at JFK as well. But we're working very hard because if the students are not there, then obviously you cannot teach them. So it's very important that they are. So we've cut them in half, and I'm looking forward to our accountability report coming out for absenteeism this round. One of the things we're very proud of is the implementation of our new units of study. Bonnie Feynman, the humanities director, worked very hard this summer with our teachers, which was wonderful to have teachers actually creating the units that they were going to implement. And Noha Abadal Hadi also worked hard on working on the STEM pieces with the science. And I cannot tell you, you are welcome to come into our school anytime and see kids doing science. It is amazing. I was in the classroom the other day, today, they were knocking over dominoes and they were talking about kinetic energy and potential, and it was hard for me to catch up because I haven't done that in a long time, but it was really exciting to see the conversation that 4th graders were having amongst each other. Also, Words Their Way, we're very excited about that. Thank you for supporting that as a board. It is a word study that parents and teachers have been asking for a long time. We finally have those phonetic pieces that we're missing and those foundations, and it goes all the way up to derivational. We have some kids who are in that, and they're doing Greek and Latin roots and a lot of high-level work. Our music program we're very excited about. Our strings, we have 108 students in strings. We have 100 students in instrumental, and we have 46 students in choir. So it's nice to have opportunities for students outside of just the academics. In addition to that, we have student leadership extracurricular activities. Some of those include, we have an announcement team, so if you were to come, you'd see our students announcing live announcements as opposed to doing over intercom. We now started an entrepreneur club this year. Our school store is student-led and organized by Miss Walker's mother. She comes in, she's retired, so she comes in and works with the kids. And they set up the management of it, order the supplies, so it's real live management work. You've heard about student-led conferences, we're very proud of those. We have the K Club, and we also are trying to look into starting peer mediation so that students can actually mediate, 5th graders can mediate problems for younger students. Opportunities, we're looking at you've heard before, the instructional coaches have been working with Dr. Cormier through Dr. Oliver's office, and they're really differentiated based on the staff needs before them. The units of studies are aligned with, one of the concerns we've had is that SBAC, it is the test that we are scored on as a district.
So we're looking at ways to help our students be more successful within the curriculum, because we don't want to teach to the test. So we're looking at ways to tuck in SVAC-like questions, because they are high-level, great thinking questions. So in the morning, all of our students do a math word problem. That is, it's called the Do Now. So when they walk in, they're meeting questions like that. We actually model that after the high school. We heard they did that with SATs. So thank you. We thought that was a great idea to make sure it's just tucked in. We're doing inquiry-based instruction for science and math workshop, and the increased parent participation. We had the best turnout ever, standing room only, this past fall. It was very crowded in every room. It was beautiful. And it was the parents working together and the kids having fun together. So, and we did that, as Virginia had mentioned, personal phone calls is one of the things that we reached out to families personally and invited them in, because sometimes people don't know what it is, they don't understand what it is, and they're not really sure if it will help their child. So strategies for improvement. Always looking for improvement. One of the ways we're doing that is we are focused on, because we have the new curriculum, this is a perfect time to really look at purposeful, differentiated lesson planning. So not just planning for one whole group, but really considering the students before you, and how am I going to differentiate my instruction to make sure that I meet the needs of all the students. Because we do have, we departmentalize, so each teacher has at least 2 classes they teach. So just because you're doing one lesson, it should not look exactly the same with another group of students. You really have to drill down and think about who's before you. We're also embedding the SVAC-like questions, like we said, into the curriculum. We're doing a lot of analysis of the data in order to inform our instructional decisions that go into our lesson planning. Positive school climate. Last spring we did a study circle, and we did another one this fall, and we're doing another one in the spring, and it has been an amazing experience. I actually have parents asking to be in the next round, which is great. We wanted to increase our parent participation to at least 4 to 5 parents. We've only had 1 in the past, so we're very excited that we have a lot of people interested as well as staff. We did something new this year called Houses. So we have our school community. We say we're one community, but we're 8 houses. So there's all the students and all the staff have been randomly selected into these houses. Kind of reminds you of Harry Potter sorting everything. And we have the House of Kindness. We have here
House of Wisdom, House of Wit, House of Leadership. So
we have different houses everyone's in, and it's kind of building camaraderie amongst the staff and the kids, because if you were a 5th grade teacher, you might never talk to a 3rd grade student until they come to you, but now you're mixing with everybody, and it's been really an unbelievable experience. It's a little crazy when they all moved houses on Friday afternoons, but we're working on doing that a little smoother. We also did something we're very excited about. So we always look at data to drive our decisions. And we were looking at our referrals. And our referrals have been up a little bit, so we were wondering why that was. And last year we did a big focus on physical aggression. This year we really kind of started to think about, well, why are people physical? What is the starting point of that? And it always comes back to a word, action, or a look that might have upset somebody. So we really are looking at kicking off a campaign that we call JFK is No Place for Hate. And we went into, Matt and I and a couple other staff members all went into every single classroom and did a presentation that really talks about mean behavior and bullying and how we can work together to not be bystanders but be upstanders. So we're using that language in our school. If you come in, please come in. We have a big respect resolution right outside the nurses' room, and every person in our building put their thumbprint on the wall to say that we will stick to this respect resolution. And then we have, thank you, we also videotaped it. We invited parents to come in. We only had about 20 parents, but it is during the day, so we understand it's difficult. So Matt videotaped his with a class, and we're going to be posting that so parents that weren't able to come can talk to their children at home and watch it and have a conversation around the topics that we talked about. We also are trying to keep this alive by, we're calling kindness tickets. Every week is a different color. And anytime, as much as we can, if we see a student who's doing a kind thing for another person or having kind words, they're giving a ticket, and then that ticket goes into our raffle box, and at the end of the week, we raffle off a prize for a student as well as a staff member. That's been a big hit. And then we change the color for the following week, and we take those tickets and we use them as a border around our respectful resolution.
And last week, we had about 400 acts of kindness in the school, 400 tickets.
One of
400.
the big things we're doing is we're also believing, like, yes, there has to be consequences to actions the students are doing, but there also has to be a restorative piece. We have to make sure that they're giving back to the community they hurt. So we've done things this year, such as we had a couple of students who were in school suspension. They raked out the courtyard, and a mother actually came in and worked with her child doing that because she believed in it so much. We have students who put up the kindness tickets. They staple them up around the border. So we're looking for ways for, if you're hurting the community, how are you going to give back so that the community becomes stronger? For our talent development, we provide opportunities for teacher leaders. We have some in the Windsor Leadership Corps. We have team mentors. We have a relationship with Central Connecticut State University. We have a cohort of student teachers. So we're going to have 5 student teachers in the spring that are going to come, and they will be able to support each other as well as have their seminar in our building. The professor will come to our building, and then we can also support them with our instructional coaches and other ways to help those young teachers. We also have some staff representing in and out of the district. The next thing is, you've heard about the MTSS. We, just like the other schools, we have our MTSS that feeds into our building data team, that feeds into the PLC, so everything is connected based on our SIP, and our school climate team as well, which used to be called our PBIS team, but we really want to call it a school climate team because it's not only PBIS, it's also those restorative practices and those other pieces that we're trying to do. I think that's it. Any questions?
Any questions for JFK?
I apologize. I had to step out for a work-related call. I'm such a fan of the work that you do at JFK, and I had a question around the use of your tickets to incentivize acts of kindness. Like, what is your do you have conversations around how to reinforce that intrinsic motivation? So if we use external incentives, sometimes it's not so much about the shared human values. It's about, oh, I just want that reward and I want to enter the raffle, and so what are your thoughts on that?
So what